And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic installment, 9 days before Santa Claus Day. Welcome to the program, my friends, from very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media, and there's a lot of them. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the downtown Cowboy State Politics studio. And by the way, does anybody know who Ken is? Ken who? Agent 29, do we know who he is?
Did he work with Barbie for a while?
Well, maybe. But oh, there you are. Ken, welcome back from the swamp, my friends.
Well, I really had nothing better to do.
Oh, I see. Well, it is good to have you back on the show.
Thanks.
Yeah, you've spent, 2 weeks down in the middle swamp?
Is that all it was?
It felt like a lot longer, didn't it?
It certainly did.
Well, anyhow, welcome back. And, of course, joining us on the program this morning, we have former Representative Mark Jennings. Mark, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Of course. We've got plenty to talk about. I mean, Ken, your adventures on appropriations, well, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be legendary or not, but pretty interesting.
Please, go on.
No, you have had, by the way, I have a bone to pick with you. You have had way too much media exposure over the last 2 weeks. The truth is, every article you look at has got something about you or your picture, or, man, you got a lot of coverage.
It makes sense, though, because if you had a choice between me and John Bear, who would you pick?
Well, I mean, certainly you'd want to pick you, of course.
I mean, he doesn't even have hair. What I don't understand is why Abby didn't get more time.
Well, that's true. Nobody wanted to hear what she had to say. And apparently, it was all about Pendergraft. And we'll get to that. There's a number of things that came out of appropriations that we're going to talk about today. And I thought probably a good thing to do would be to just get some perspective on a lot of the different agencies that asked for money, that made some crazy comments. And, of course, we've got Jennings here, so he can weigh in on those. But we're going to start this morning with the Federalist. As if anybody ever pays attention to Time magazine anymore, but I always find it interesting who they pick for Person of the Year.
They're still around.
Yeah, they are still around.
I'll be.
Yeah. And again, not that they're relevant anymore, but for me, it's always interesting to see who they think is the most influential person throughout the year. And this year, I mean, there's a lot of them that we could talk about.
That was one headline I didn't make.
No, you did not make Time magazine, thank God, nor would you want to. But the Federalist has a piece out. This is, if Time magazine weren't so corrupt, it would have made Charlie Kirk the Person of the Year. And I think, when you look at the year in total, certainly Charlie Kirk had, that was a big deal, his assassination. And I think only now do we realize how influential that he was. But there again, you had Trump's second election. It's only the second time in American history that a president has had two non-consecutive terms. So that's pretty big. There's a lot of things that he's done with the economy, all of the wars that he's been able to get ceasefires on or peace treaties or whatever. That's a big deal. But instead, the Time magazine picked the elites who are advancing AI technology. So it's not a person of the year, really. It's
And
a group of people.
they really weren't sitting on that beam.
No, they weren't.
That was
AI.
photoshopped. Yeah.
Yes, totally photoshopped. Well, is photoshopped even a term anymore? That used to be the thing when pictures were edited. Now I think it's probably just AI. Anyway, here's what the first couple paragraphs of this piece says. Faced with choosing the most obvious, consequential, and energizing figure in American political life, or a group of tech elites advancing AI technology, Time magazine opted for the latter, snubbing the late, great Charlie Kirk for their Person of the Year. Honoring Charlie would have required the editors to acknowledge what the rest of the country already knows, which is that one man, Charlie Kirk, reshaped the political landscape amongst the next generation of Americans. Charlie didn't merely influence politics, he changed its trajectory so much that President Donald Trump has frequently credited Charlie with helping deliver the critical youth vote in the 2024 election. All right, so question, fellas. We already know what this author's opinion is of Person of the Year, Charlie Kirk. What say you? Do you think Charlie would have been a better pick? Well, certainly would have been a better pick than what they chose, but do you think that he is the Person of the Year? Ken, what do you think?
That's been asked of me all along, and I focused the camera in on our guest this morning so that you could ask what he thinks.
Well, I'm about to. Well, I figured that you, being the media hound that you are now, would want top billing.
And see, there you got it wrong yet again.
What? That's not true at all.
98.9%.
That is not. That is.
But he got my interest. I'm curious what you think now.
Yeah.
What do I think about what?
The Person of the Year. Stick with the program here, Pendergrass.
I'm trying to remember where all the buttons are.
Well, I mean, okay.
So what do I think about the Person of the Year? I remember when they picked Spiro Agnew.
Okay. Man, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was Agnew was on the tightrope. And even then I thought, well, who cares? And I'm pretty much of the same opinion. I really don't care who Time magazine picks because all 9 readers don't amount to hill of beans.
Fair enough. I mean, they're pretty much irrelevant anymore.
Yeah. Your reaction, Mark, was spot on when it came there. Was they're still in business? They're still writing.
I couldn't tell you how long it's been since I've seen a Time.
So
well, I don't pay much attention to those.
Right, the
That's
news,
I guess.
I mean,
grocery store tabloids.
Yeah.
you obviously could make an argument for. You can make an argument for Elon Musk with all of the doging and that sort of stuff that went on, and that would be there. But that's so yesterday, and that's one of the funny things about Time magazine that makes them irrelevant, is they don't actually have any long-term perspective on anything.
And
It's whatever happens to be hot at the moment, unless it really is a story. You remember how they treated Dan Quayle?
Oh yeah. So, Mark, in your opinion, who would be the Person of the Year?
Well, I think if you're looking for the larger impact into the society and the world, I think you'd have to go with Donald Trump. Like him, don't like him, he's had more impact, even than Charlie Kirk. And Charlie Kirk plays into that realm of changing societal view, and certainly to the young people. And so he would be a fine choice also. But if you're looking for overall impact in the United States and the world, I think you'd have to probably go with the president.
Yeah, well, and that's why I wanted to talk about this, because we are at the end of the year. And, I mean, the end of the year, we tend to have, try to do a little bit of introspection, a little bit of retrospection on what happened throughout the year. And you're right, Ken, that we tend to have a pretty short attention span, that we only remember the things that happened this month. And I think with where media is right now, everything is happening. I mean, you're bombarded with messages. It's 24/7, and even me, I'll come across another story and think, wow, man, I talked about that a long time ago. And I'll look back at my show notes and I'll find out, oh, no, that was just last week. And so I think that our attention span tends to be pretty short, and that we, like you said, Ken, it's kind of the whatever's happening at the moment. But I mean, I think that Charlie Kirk probably, if you look, in my opinion, I mean, I think I would probably choose him as Person of the Year. But I mean, I agree that you have got a great argument with Donald Trump.
I'd throw Bo Nix's name in the mix.
Of course you would. Broncos fans.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with Charlie Kirk. I mean, he's certainly had an impact, and certainly the assassination certainly brings it forefront what he was involved in, what he was doing, and I'm very much in favor of Charlie Kirk. But I just overall impact, I would have said.
I think you alluded to this earlier. Charlie didn't really have an international global punch. He had an impact. He had an impact.
Well, I mean, I don't know that there were a lot of remembrances, revivals, services that were worldwide.
Yeah, but I think when you stack that up against the President of the United States, who has taken such a radical turn, and you mentioned the stopping the wars, or at least grinding them to a halt for the time being. There's never going to be a stop. I think that's pretty remarkable.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it is too. Now, there's another aspect of this whole Charlie Kirk story that I find particularly distasteful. And the lovely Christine and I were talking about this last night, that there are a number of people in the media, most of them podcasters, that have come up with these outrageous conspiracies about Charlie Kirk, that there were foreign governments involved in his assassination, and I'm sure the Illuminati are in there somewhere.
The Rothschilds.
Yeah,
I
Rothschilds.
think they did it.
I mean, the Vanderbilts are probably in there too, but I find it really distasteful.
Are they the ones that set up the chemtrails?
Yeah, probably so. And a lot of it is focused on the attention anyway on like Candace Owens. She claims to have all the receipts of all this stuff, who was involved in the Charlie Kirk assassination, and now there's a big controversy with Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow. And I just find the whole discussion kind of distasteful. I mean, the man's dead. And, it's now we have people that are trying to profit off of it, which that's what it is. You come up with an outrageous theory and it generates clicks and views. And, I really think that's what a lot of it has to do with. But, I haven't seen what the resolution to that's going to be. There's apparently, I don't know if you guys saw this, there's supposed to be some kind of summit between Erica Kirk and Candace Owens, and they're going to sit down and talk about this. Well, all right, that too is I think, to kind of create a spectacle out of it, and perhaps that's the reason why I find it more distasteful.
I think with Erica, she wants to put a stop to it.
I think so.
And with Candace, she's wanting to make money.
Well, think about all of her statements about Bridget Macron. At one point she says, I'll stake my entire political career that Bridget Macron is a man. And then Bridget Macron, I saw one news article that said, okay, I'll prove it to you that, I'm not a man. And then that was the end of it. Candace Owens stopped talking about it, and, it's done. But I really think it's that in many ways we're kind of addicted to spectacle.
It's disappointing, though, that here's someone that came on the scene as a truth seeker and a truth teller.
Yeah.
And the truth is that it certainly has every appearance that it's for money.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'll admit, there is an allure to being able to reveal something that is not known.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, personally, I get a big charge out of finding something that is kind of hidden, that people don't want to be exposed, and being able to tell people about it. I'll give you a couple of examples. The drag queen training at the University of Wyoming, that was a big story for me. And I got a big charge out of saying, hey, guys, look what the university is doing. Another one was Albert Somers' ties to the Communist Party, that he was on the board of an organization that has absolute ties to the Chinese Communist Party. That was a big one. And so there is an allure, there is I don't know what it's an addictive. It's an addictive thing to be able to reveal things that are previously unknown. And I think that translates into what a lot of what Candace Owens is doing. That there is, she picks up on a story. Hey, I've got all the receipts about this Charlie Kirk assassination. I'm going to tell the world. And now it's blown up into this big thing. And she's getting headlines everywhere. And I think that is what it's about.
It's a natural thing in the flesh. Goes all the way back to the garden. Well, the serpent tells Eve that there's more to the story than what God has let her know at this point.
Right. You can become like God.
Yeah, and you can explain all this to Adam because he'll be clueless.
Yeah.
He'll be the guy that don't know.
Maybe that's the one accurate thing Satan did say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, accurate doesn't make it good.
Yeah, but and the other part of it too is that it distracts us from the things that are really important.
Yeah.
The things that
you got to be
affect
careful with it.
affect your daily life, and we're going to talk about a lot of those. And actually, you know what? This on the top of the stack is this one. Senators blast Wyoming U.S. attorney as unqualified MAGA loyalist January 6th supporter. And they're referring to Darren Smith, who's been nominated to be the U.S. attorney for Wyoming. Now, we all know Darren, and I don't know about his legal career, but I've had him on the show a number of times. I've talked to him a lot. Ken, you've probably had way more interactions with him
A fair bit, yeah.
than many of us. Now, so here's what the piece says. Quote, and I think this is from Wyopile. 2 U.S. senators blasted the Trump administration's nominee to be the federal attorney for Wyoming, calling Darren Smith unqualified and alleging he made false claims about the January 6th insurrection he attended. Dick Durbin, Peter Welch, Democrats from Illinois and Vermont, respectively, urged their colleagues to vote against Smith's nomination at a meeting of the Judiciary Committee on Thursday. Quote, there's got to be some standard of qualification to give this kind of power to an individual who has no background, none whatsoever, when it comes to criminal or federal court experience. Mr. Smith is not, Mr. Smith goes to Washington, maybe not, is not remotely qualified to be a U.S. attorney. Welch weighed into, quote, his words in support of January 6th are disqualifying for him to serve as a U.S. attorney. I mean, seriously, what are we doing? Now, the committee did vote 12-10 along party lines to move Darren's appointment to the full Senate, and it's expected that he's going to get confirmed. So, question first, why is it, do you think, that Darren got chose? I mean, why do we think that he was chosen to be the U.S. attorney?
He has long-term inside track with Trump people.
Okay,
and so
he's got the connections.
And he had the qualifications to do the job.
I mean, he is an attorney.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
he's, from what I know of him, I mean, he's pretty well informed. I think he's done a lot of work at the local level, school boards. His wife was on the school board for a while.
He was a sitting senator.
Yep, and he was a sitting senator.
I think there's a bit of a discussion to be had here about the whole concept of it. How are they qualified? They said that about a bunch of us when we came into the House.
Well, and they were right about
it. You're not qualified. And my response has always been, well, if you want business as usual, no.
Right.
We're not qualified. We're not going to do it that way. And I think that's why Darren was chosen, because it was a different direction. Now, Darren may not be the most well-spoken person under fire, and that sometimes works against him. People have a tendency to judge you that way. Don't I know it? But he sets a new direction, and basically looking at the proper role of government, looking at where things really are.
And to his credit, during the last session, a lot of times Darren was the lone conservative vote in the entire Senate. There were a lot of different bills that even some of the people that we might put in the conservative column went total redcoat, and Darren was by himself or with Senator Steinmetz on a lot of those votes.
Sometime we'll have to have a talk about going total redcoat.
Yes.
Everybody always says, and I hated this when I was on the outside looking in. I hated this when people would say, "Oh, it's more complicated than that." But it actually is, and a lot of times you don't have an idealistic right way to go. And so you have to take the next best thing. and people on the outside will sit back and say, "I can't believe you went there. I can't believe you went there." But we'll have that discussion another time.
Well, no, I think that is an interesting point because on a lot of these issues, the people that elect the folks that go to Cheyenne or to Washington, we do have a black and white view of things, and part of that is because I think part of it is no. Do we have an idea of how the inner workings of the legislature happen? No, we don't. But on a lot of these issues, for people at their own kitchen tables, it is black and white. And we are so sick of electing people that tell us they're going to do one thing and then go down there and do another. And so you get to a point where you don't want to hear that it's more complicated than that because your life is not more complicated than that. It's you want me to pay how much in taxes? And if I don't pay it, I lose my house. But the answer we get from Cheyenne, just as an example, is, well, we have to have taxes.
Plow snow.
Or we can't plow snow, right? Or we're going to lose firemen and police officers. Going to have to fire them. But the truth is, when it comes down to it, and you're sitting at your kitchen table with your checkbook, and every number you write on it hurts. That's pretty simple. And so there is a disconnect between what happens at your kitchen table and what happens in Cheyenne. But I think a lot of these things, okay, maybe in Cheyenne it is more complicated, but it's not more complicated back here.
Let me give you an example.
Sure.
Being as we're here right now. About 2 years ago, the state bought another helicopter to fight fires.
Okay.
And I was all for it. The reason I was all for it is when you deploy one of those things, you have a much better chance of stopping a fire before it becomes a big deal like the elk fire. This last couple of weeks, we're advancing a bill that will add a whole nother jump crew, smoke jumpers, and actually a couple of them ultimately. So we're spending money.
Yeah.
But I am firmly convinced that in spending that money, we're going to save us a lot down the road. So we're growing government. There's more government employees.
Well, maybe.
We're spending money. But I believe it's an investment, and I hate the way this sounds because we've all heard this stuff before. We're making an investment in trying to actually save money down the road.
Okay, so all right, so that's actually a pretty good example because a lot of us here we tend to say, oh, if you're spending money, it's bad. Well, no, it's not. It's not bad to perform regular maintenance on your car. When your odometer hits 3,000 miles, you should probably go get an oil change.
Hey, building maintenance. We have hundreds and hundreds of buildings all over the state, and it costs us millions and millions of dollars to maintain
most of which
them.
we don't need.
Well, that's the point. But as long as we have them, we have to maintain them. So my answer is we need to start selling some of these off.
Okay, so one of the reasons why this program is as popular and as important as it is you have to, we have to have the conservative argument explained, right? Some of these issues, all right, maybe they're a little bit more complicated than they might appear from the outside. But your helicopter example, I would argue that that's a conservative investment because we do have to fight fires. It's better to be able to be more effective with what you have. That maybe you can put out fires before they turn into just outright blazes. Okay, so some people probably said, "How dare you buy another helicopter?" But let's compare that to the governor's jets. Okay, so Wyoming has 2 jets. We could argue that I think one of them is probably okay. There's just some cases where we're going to have to fly to Washington, D.C. We can make a pretty good argument for one of them. But 2, probably not.
Little background on that. I think you would remember, Mark, Chuck Gray started running that. Maybe he wasn't even the first one. It might have been Alan Jaggi. Started running a bill every year. It was an amendment to the budget to sell one of those jets. Guess what I'm convinced is going to happen this time around?
That we're going to have another bill to sell the jet?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know who's going to run it, but I would fully expect that that's going to happen.
Probably. So my point is that the helicopter, absolutely needed. Cost effective, yes. Able to fight fires, yes. We make a good argument. Straight up a conservative move, I think. The jet, on the other hand, not conservative. Not conservative to spend money on a 24/7 crew for a second jet that you don't need, that it costs a tremendous amount of money for. Let's sell it. Okay, two entirely different things. But when you look at a lot of these budgetary items, and we're going to talk about, after the break, we're going to talk about a lot of these.
Before you leave the
Yep.
jet, I want to throw something in there. I think it was A&I, which basically is taking care of the physical buildings and that sort of thing. That used to fly the jet a lot, and that division took a lot of criticism for that. They actually came out in testimony and said, we did some research and we found out it's actually cheaper for us just to drive, and we don't use the jet anymore.
Weird.
So we're gonna use some of that testimony.
Yeah. Okay. So coming up after the break, we're going to talk about this bear care. This is something that I haven't talked about on the program, that I was saving for whenever Ken got back, and it just so happened to be for this week. But apparently there are some in Wyoming that want us to have our own health care system, yet another one. Clearly not the role of government, but we're going to talk about it when we come back. But first, wait a minute. Hold on, Ken. But first, a very important announcement. It is my amazing sister's birthday. It is, I don't remember how old she is. She's probably 29. But happy birthday, Christy, and I've got a little song for you. Go ahead and play the happy birthday song.
Hey, kid, I hear it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
I think my fees just went up.
No, they didn't.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Christy. We'll be back in just a second. Are you tired of all the meaningless political drivel floating around right now? Endless commentary that really doesn't have anything backing it up? Do you long for the days of true investigative journalism, coming from an authoritative source who really doesn't care how popular and apparently good-looking a politician is? Fortunately for you, that's what I do on Cowboy State Politics. New episodes are published every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and you can get them anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest way is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There, you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles I might bring up during the course of the program. Cowboy State Politics Live, the program you're listening to right now, is broadcast every Tuesday through Friday, beginning at 8 a.m. Pay attention to all of that other block-headed nonsense if you want. Just make sure that you don't miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Tuesday, 9 days before Christmas. I'm David Iverson, doing what I was born to do with talent given to me by God himself. Welcome back to the show. I'm joined. Agent 29 is back. I'm super excited about that. And we have former Representative Mark Jennings with us in the studio. Yes. From the cow pie, Wyoming lawmakers worry bear care is just more in government. Who are these people that write titles? I cannot be held accountable for the grammar here. Wyoming lawmakers worry bear care is just more government in insurance market. Okay. And I quote, when applying for more than $500 million in the $50 billion of federal money Congress allocated for rural health initiatives this summer, the Wyoming Department of Health thought bear care would be a catchy name for one of its pitches, a state-run insurance program geared toward emergencies only, because many swaths of Wyoming are bear territory and clashes with bears can happen. If approved, the proposed program would give individuals and small business groups a government-backed option to provide insurance for catastrophes and emergencies. One more time, this is not the role of government. Nowhere in the Wyoming Constitution or U.S. Constitution does it say government can get involved in the health insurance market or in health care or in any of it.
So this is part of the problem. This is one of the reasons that I'm opposed to, for example, the generational wealth thing, is we're sitting on these billions of dollars. What are we possibly going to do with it? Well, when I suggested to Ogden Driscoll last week that
we're going to get to
send some
later.
back to the people, his answer, and Mike Drew was standing right beside him, and they both said in perfect harmony, it's not their money. That's their attitude. And the problem is when you amass that kind of wealth and power in one group of people, they're looking for ways that they can not only control your life, but that they can grow their wealth and power.
Yes.
And we do not want government in that position. And so all of these things, they talk, what a wonderful thing it is. We got $32 billion and it pays 1/3 of all your taxes, so you don't have to worry about that.
Uh-huh.
Maybe if we did, we would say stop the spending.
Exactly. Well, this is just one more example of where we're trying to grow government, and there's a whole bunch of them in the stack of stuff.
Wait a minute, don't say we're trying to grow government.
Well, I mean, what I mean is...
Didn't you vote for a helicopter?
Yes. Didn't you vote for Mr. Growing Government?
I did, and I voted for about a dozen positions, too.
All right, so bear care. It's not the role of government. We shouldn't be involved in the medical industry. And I think that this is just another example of trying to chip away at, well, let me back up. So we couldn't get Medicaid expansion passed in the state. Nancy Case tried 17 times, by my count anyway, to get Medicaid expansion passed in the state, and in various and creative ways, mind you. At first, it didn't work with him introducing a bill, and then he tried an amendment, and then he tried a procedural maneuver, and he's tried it a whole bunch of different ways.
I'm now working on Medicaid. I'm now working on Medicaid contraction.
Yes,
and
yes.
That's not that easy either.
Well, one easy way to do it is not to start bear care. But I think that what the liberal redcoats are trying to do is chip away at really this whole Medicaid expansion thing that they want to do. So they can't do the whole thing in one shot, and so we have to try it in little drips and drabs. And this is exactly what government does all of the time. Let's do this little piece here, this little piece here, and when a couple of years down the road, well, then we'll have the whole shoot and match. This is another example of that.
In this case, it wasn't bad enough that government got involved in medical care, in medicine, health care, where it should not be. But now it's trying to take over the insurance industry, which is that connection too. And you think we're messed up now.
Okay, so here's what leads you to believe, what should lead you to believe that this is an attempt to chip away at that whole Medicaid expansion thing, the whole idea of it. How many bear attacks do we have in a given year? 20, maybe? Even 30? It's not that many. It's not more than 100. It's a really, really small number. And so they set up a program, and they call it Bear Care. And we're all led to believe, well, hey, man, there isn't that many bear attacks in a given year, so this really isn't going to cost us all that much money. But when you read the fine print, it's a state-run insurance program geared toward emergencies only. So what other type of emergencies might be included in this whole bear care thing? Maybe you fall off a ladder. Well, that's an emergency. Maybe you get hit by a car. That's an emergency too. Maybe your appendix explodes and you have to go to the hospital. That is an emergency too.
Who defines what an emergency is, though?
Precisely. Thank you. Exactly right. And so these ostensibly small programs end up being gigantic programs. And let's see here. Does it say how much money they want to put towards this bear care? No, I don't see it in the first part of the argument. Well, let's just talk about this philosophically. Mark, you were in the legislature for 10 years. How many different times and in different ways did you see the Redcoats attempt to put through more and more insurance?
Oh, no, they didn't attempt to. They had the votes, and they did put it in. One of the most insidious ones to me was that they got to the point where they were trying to help people in their free clinics, which I'm all for, just not for the government doing. And they turned the facility into a government employee so that they could provide insurance through that facility.
Wow.
That was the conversation.
I told you it was more complicated than you thought.
Well, no, so the uncomplicated part of this is no.
Yeah.
So, Ken, describe for us how this whole thing went down. I realize you've already had enough media attention for a month or a year, but describe for us what happened with this bear care thing. I mean, how did this whole thing come out?
So you go back to the Department of Health, who understands that there's $5 million over 5 years coming from the feds, but they have to be creative in how they spend it. We can't, that's one of the problems with their thinking, is we're not supposed to be able to create a program that is going to drive expenses beyond the window. Well, of course, they think we can treat this like a business. When government runs a business, it always works out well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so we'll just start an insurance business. It would be just for catastrophic things and just for the people in Wyoming and that sort of thing. And we can use this money for that, and that way the state will have extended benefit of this federal monies for a long period of time. How in the hell is this the proper role of government?
It's not. But again, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that went through the Appropriations Committee that are definitely not the proper role of government.
The concept is good information. If you've done the statistics and stuff of that nature, you'd understand that absolutely you want catastrophic is much easier to cover. It's just not the place for, I mean, if government has any role whatsoever, it would only be to put out that information. That statistically, you might want to have a catastrophic policy.
But even that has run amok. One of the things that I'm looking at in the Department of Health stuff is public health, and all the monies that they spend telling us how to eat, what to eat, this and that. That's a nanny state. And it is so intense that nobody pays any attention. And it's a complete waste as far as I'm concerned. I asked them several times, can you point to any hard facts that show the ROI on that money? No, we can't. We just think it works.
Yeah, we just think it works.
Yeah.
I use the word if.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so juxtapose this with an article in the Turkey Vulture. Senate rejects extension of health care subsidies as costs are set to rise for millions of Americans. Now, we don't even have to get into the article. What do you think is going to happen with insurance rates when government is now paying for emergencies? I mean, it is going to continue to drive those prices up because government's paying for it. I mean, not really government's paying for it. You and I are. But now we're going to cover emergencies. And the number one thing that we hear from government healthcare advocates is, well, if people don't have health insurance, they go to the emergency room. And we are stuck with all the costs of those. And now government is going to pay those.
That's mission creep, and that's why I said, what about who gets to define what an emergency is? It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
pretty quick, a hangnail's an emergency. And the mission continually creeps because agencies need to find ways to justify their existence and to justify expansion.
I think it's pretty darned ironic that Cheyenne Regional Medical Center is right next to the Capitol building. I'm sure they didn't plan that at all. But the point here,
They do have a pretty good cafe.
well, maybe we'll have to go have lunch there one of these days. But my point is that now, if this thing were to pass, and it doesn't have a snowball's chance on a Wyoming prairie in the middle of August of passing, but now we're going to be covering emergencies. And so, I mean, theoretically, right? So the only thing that that's going to do is going to drive healthcare costs up. Now, here's where I want to get into more of a discussion of the free market. Why is it that healthcare costs are so high? Well, it's because government got involved, right? If you have a guaranteed payday, if you've got somebody with an unlimited checkbook that is going to pay all of these healthcare costs, well, of course prices are going to go up because there's no reason to assume that you won't get paid for it. And so, yeah, I mean, this is cronyism from the word go.
But it works in another insidious way. Take dental benefits paid through Medicaid. The Medicaid rates are so that we can cover everybody. We pay pennies on a dollar for what it actually costs to do the dental care, thanks in part to government and thanks in part to a liturgical society that likes to sue everybody.
Litigious, not liturgical.
Well, I like confusing people.
So do the people with.
I wish we had a liturgical society.
I wish we did.
Thanks for catching that. But we've got a situation now where none of the dentists want to take Medicaid because they can't afford to. In fact, we spoke to one dentist who said, somebody comes in on Medicaid, we just take care of them and write it off because it's not worth our time to fill that out. So you get this thing where everybody loses, and that's my point. Whenever the government gets involved, it comes down to a point where everybody loses.
Well, I'm going to go a little rogue on both of you. Absolutely, government, it's not their place to do that. But part of their problem in our society is that our free market, if you go greed unchecked, becomes problematic too. You can look into the health field. Insurance did it. Pharmaceutical companies did it. Without morality, these things begin to spiral out of control. And so then government's natural. I mean, it's an easy place for government to say, here, let us get involved. Nobody else can fix this. And of course, government then actually makes it go from bad to worse.
So there is truth in what you say.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But I believe in the free market enough to know that when things start to get out of balance, somebody's going to come up and say, hey, here's a response that we could do. Here's a way to compete.
Yeah.
It gets complicated by power and those other things. But we just add, by getting government involved, we add another layer of...
An insidious layer.
Yeah. And we're not patient enough to allow
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, to allow the free market to work itself out. We've got to have a fix now.
Well, now, wait a minute. I was told that the free market doesn't exist. That it really only exists in universities because it's only a model. Now, I've talked a lot about this on the program, but Ken, this one, above all of them, sticks in my craw. Oh, man. I mean, it is by far the most irritating thing I heard out of appropriations. Josh Durrell and the Wyoming Business Council. In fact, I've got a bit of a montage put together. Go ahead and play it for me.
The free market as an ideal, unfortunately, it doesn't exist except at, maybe those ivory tower type institutions that we might call as in academia, and that's where it exists because it's a model. It's not about having a super small government. It's having an appropriately sized government that's important. And for the problem that we're looking to solve, we're not appropriately sized. we are indeed too small.
The free market is actually not free, but you have to remember those markets are working.
Okay,
The
so
market is working against us. So we have to use government intervention to actually reverse that. I know all of you.
There will likely need to be, there will need to be government interventions if we wish Wyoming to compete in the U.S. economy. And that's the perspective that we have. And we do have a few of those interventions, and as palatable or as needing Benadryl as they might be to some of us, they're necessary if we want to compete with the other states.
oh my gosh. Ken, how are you able to sit through this?
I wish you had some Benadryl.
Oh, yeah.
So I think what you have to do is consider the source. It's a little bit like being chewed out by somebody in junior high school. Is you have to rise above. I would call it meekness, power with restraint. and I think that's how you kind of have to approach this. Is they're gonna throw their fits. They're gonna say their stupid things. And as we've said several times on this show, you just allow them to talk. They'll hang themselves. Now, sorry.
Job security
Yeah.
for people like David.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I mean, there's plenty of that.
I really appreciated John Baer's response to Josh with that first one about, it only exists in the halls of academia. And he pulls up I don't even remember where he got the data, but he's just talking about everything inside of academia is, I don't even remember the words. John, you got to help me out.
Well,
we got to have John on to come explain.
Well, as it turns out, he wants to call in at 9:05. So
good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
We'll get that figured out in just a second.
That'll straighten some things.
Yeah,
out.
we're going to talk to him about bear care and a whole bunch of different stuff. But this whole thing with Josh Durrell, and I guess what added to my irritation, was that there was not one single article in any of the Wyoming media that even mentioned Durrell's comments about the free market. Not one of them. I mean, they hit all the way around it. I mean, in any possible way that they could, but they never came out and said that the guy whose job it is to increase business in the state says that the free market doesn't exist. Oh my God! Now, that's not all he said. He also said that it's our job to create an economic system. Play that soundbite. It's Durrell's command and control. But barring all of those circumstances, businesses ought to be able to freely operate and conduct their affairs as they see fit without undue influence from government. But Josh Durrell evidently doesn't believe in that. Here he is saying it again.
The free market as an ideal, unfortunately, it doesn't exist except at, maybe those ivory tower type institutions that we might call as in academia, and that's where it exists because it's a model.
All right, you've got that part. But Josh Durrell goes farther than that. He claims that we ought to create an economic system. A system, no doubt, that involves... Okay, all right. So he says it's his job to create an economic system. Wait a minute. Don't we already... And why the heck does Josh Durrell think that he can create an economic system? And why do we even need to do that? I mean, guys, is this a commonly held belief in Cheyenne that our economic system is totally crap and we have to completely remake it in our own image, or the one that we want?
By bureaucrats and elitists. That is a commonly held belief by those two groups of people.
I mean, it blows my mind. And that the Wyoming media won't say anything about it, it just shows you that they're absolutely in the tank for it. Well, of course they are, because they make a tremendous amount of money off government. And I mean, Ken, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall after the appropriations meeting, just to hear what you guys had to talk about with Josh Durrell.
David, I don't think it's just about that they make a lot of money off of it. This is more about control of the people and control of the narrative than it is even about the money. they use government, and they certainly enrich their pockets and things of that nature. But this is about control, trying to control a people, and to control the narrative.
Yeah, and we spent hundreds of millions of dollars doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Josh Durrell that told Senator Salazar that he needed $1 billion.
$1.7 billion.
$1.7 billion, excuse me.
But beyond that, that's part of my problem with the tremendous wealth that the state has built up, is that controls people.
Mm-hmm.
If you can offer people benefits, you can change the way they live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's insidious, it's evil.
Yes.
It's not for freedom.
No, and I don't.
It's the opposite.
And I don't think that any of those people are for freedom.
Oh, no.
No, I mean, I think that's absolutely obvious.
If you'd ask them, they would tell you that they were. They would tell you they were conservative.
Well, they tell you that by receiving government benefits, you can be more free.
Yeah. Yeah.
How insidious.
Oh, God, it's terrible. All right, so we're a little bit short, but we're going to go ahead and take a break so we can get ready for Representative John Bear to be on the program. So we'll take a break, we'll come back, and we'll have John at 9:05. Back in a minute. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics Podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics.
Now you're in a loop.
Hunting season. Right about now, you're off with all of your pals, stalking the big gigantic elk or buck mule deer that you've been thinking about all summer long. And your lovely wife is at home, probably enjoying her time without you. But soon, my friend, all of that is going to come to a screeching halt. And I want you to think about just one little thing. She's able to park her car inside the garage because all of your hunting crap is with you right now. Now, if you'd like the marital bliss to continue, I suggest you make a call to Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They can build you a garage or a barn or any other type of metal structure for you to store all of your toys in so that your wife can continue parking inside the garage. And you can avoid sleeping on the couch for the next month or two. Call Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Get them to build you a metal building before it's too late.
Talk about a whole bunch of stuff.
Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Tuesday. Man, we got a lot to talk about. I've got, of course, Agent 29 is back. I've got former Representative Mark Jennings, and in about 10 minutes, we're going to have Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, John Bear. And so, and I guess my point with this whole program this morning is just to talk about all the myriad and numerous ways that a whole bunch of people tried to grow government over the last 2 weeks. And again, you know, before the break.
2 weeks or 2 decades? I must have missed that.
Well, I mean, it's been 2 decades, yeah, but really the last 2 weeks.
The last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, but the last 2 weeks in front of appropriations, and it was every single day there was something to talk about. I mean, from Wyoming Stable Token to, you know, Josh Durrell and the University of Wyoming. I just absolutely incredible. So University of Wyoming one, here's another 27-page article from the Cowboy entitled UW Seeks Extra $54 million on top of its $440 million state-funded budget. The University of Wyoming asked state lawmakers this week for an extra $54 million for the upcoming 2-year budget cycle on top of its already $440 million state-funded budget. That's for an artificial intelligence program. I'm glad that the university is interested in injecting any form of intelligence in their programming, but it's going to be a paid internship program. Shops and equipment to train professors of technical trades, a grant for its athletics department. Why do we need a grant for its athletics department when they've got the Cowboy Joe Club and we already spent hundreds of millions of dollars on it? And they already make a crap load on just about everything else.
So one of the things that happened there was I asked him about the Josh Allen effect.
Yeah. Oh,
And
this
they
is a
said-
fascinating discussion.
They said ticket sales are ridiculously high. We've never had merchandise sales like this. We've got enrollments are up, positive news everywhere around the world. And I said, would it come to at least $6 million? Because that's what they were asking for to cover the NCAA lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think you had a great question. You know, they spent $2 million on a Super Bowl ad. $2 million. Now, you would think you would be able to quantify what that $2 million made you. And, you know, Ken's question was, so wait a minute. You spent $2 million on a Super Bowl ad. Now, here you are asking for $6 million. Can we get any idea of what you got out of your $2 million, or shall we just give you more? And the answer to all of these from all of these bureaucrats is always, just give us more money. Give us more money, more and more and more, hundreds of millions. And it's as if they have no conception whatsoever what $100 million actually is. I mean, and why would you think that they would? Because for the last 2 decades, it's just been, you know, one blank check after another one. And it's, it is absolutely infuriating. So the rest of this piece here we go. Representative Ken Pendergraft of Sheridan called for the leader of the student body, Associated Students of the University of Wyoming, President Paula Medina. Quote, I've heard a lot of stories of the last several years about a prevailing woke attitude at the university. Adding that, on the other hand, he's also heard, quote, a much more open dialogue at the university recently. Have you noticed this change in temperature, he asked. Now, of course, the answer that he got was, well, yeah, of course there's a change in temperature. Now, we had Ed Seidel in this studio right where Representative Jennings is, and we straight up asked him that question. And, of course, what answer did he give us? Oh, yeah, it's, you know, we're all about free speech. We're all about having an open environment, and we got rid of our DEI program. You know, and I asked him, if you go back and listen to the interview, I specifically asked him if those people just got moved around. And those weren't my words. But his response was, well, no, we got rid of that program. We listened to the legislature. Really? I would like to see some evidence of that. Now, Ken, you had another question. I can't remember which person you were talking to, but you asked about the gender transition treatments in. Ken asked if money was still going to gender transformation treatments in Casper, or did I have that wrong?
Well, that was the question, but I didn't say what it was for because I didn't want to make that the issue. I just simply asked them because we had heard some rumors, had some pretty good evidence that some things were going on, and in fact they were. There was some gender transition therapy going on, not technically paid for by the university, but by people who worked at that clinic, so they would get a referral. Anyway, but I didn't want to make that the story. I just wanted to go to, is this still going on? They said it was not, reassured me that it was not. Got them on the record saying that.
Well, I think that was an important move there, that we have to have these people on record, and so that we can hold them accountable. Now, Mark, I mean, this stuff was going on when you were in the legislature. You know, how do we, today we're talking about the Appropriations Committee, but how does the legislature really put an end to all of this, all the gender transition stuff, and us spending hundreds of millions of dollars, on all sorts of other programs. But let's just use that as an example.
Honest legislators with integrity to actually look into that and then vote accordingly.
Well, I think that it goes to a much bigger problem, though, that we have. I mean, there's this idea that, that's actually a thing, that a man can become a woman or a woman can become a giraffe or a trout or whatever. But here we are, the state government, I mean, okay, funding it by proxy through the university, but it's still taxpayer dollars all the way around it. I mean, I know that you've thought a lot about this.
Yeah.
But how do we end it?
Well, again, I think if you have honest legislators that are actually say, you know what, people can't become trout. Maybe a fly fishing crowd or something like that might want to, but you can't. If they're honest in that debate, the truth comes to the forefront, and people should rally to that, and we need them to rally to that, to the honest conversation, and then you cut the funding to it. You put an end to it. It's going to be hard to do because look at their endowment. Look at how much money. I mean, they could do all this without new public money going into it. They could do it with just what they have, and they never do. I don't know what their endowment is up to. Do you happen to know that, Ken? Yeah.
Well, so and therein lies another point that they have. God, I don't know how many millions of dollars stashed away.
I think it's $1 billion.
Okay,
I think it's with a B. I think it's up there. It's huge numbers.
So they could pay for every student to go to the university for free for quite a while.
Yeah.
And yet we're still shelling out cash. And I often wonder why that point isn't driven home at the legislature. Listen, you guys have all this money sitting in the bank. Why do you need our money?
Mm-hmm.
And continually, like I just read the number to you. $494 million is what they want for 2 years.
They need our money because it's easy to get.
Aha! Because people don't say no. Well, now some folks are saying no. So I don't know. I mean, there has to be a more concrete way of slamming the brakes on all of this.
Yeah, I think it didn't get here overnight, and I think you're gonna, I think the concepts of like the doging and things of that nature, where you have honest and people with integrity actually exposing that, then if the people will actually engage, you got to remember the people have been apathetic for a long time because the system is so broke. The system itself is not broke. It's who we send that is broken people that are poor people to be taking this on. And we've had rhinos in there for literally for decades.
Well, and really, I mean, we call them redcoats or rhinos, whatever term you want to use. But really, when it boils down to it, we're talking about people who are actually Democrats.
Yeah.
And they just hang that R at the end of their name so that they can get elected.
Right.
There's lots of examples of that. But we've got the majority in at least one house. Now, here's another problem. We do not have the majority in the Senate. And so whatever conservative bill may come out of the House of Representatives, well, then it goes to the Senate to meet an untimely death from at the hands of Slithers Nethercott. And that's one of the things that we've got to work on in the next election. We've got to flip the Senate. And that means getting rid of a lot of people that, or unelecting a bunch of people that, in the past we thought may have been pretty conservative, but aren't anymore. Because it's money and control, like you said, Mark.
Yeah. Follow the money.
Yep, absolutely. So, like I said, we should have Representative John Bear calling in just a second, and so let's just kind of like kick the football around the room a little bit until he calls. I mean, I want to talk a little bit later on in the program about taxes. There's an interesting post from Ogden Driscoll. Did you guys see that one? Oh, it's another one of these. Well, if you think you're paying higher taxes, you need to look at all these other states because you don't pay as much as the rest of them. And it's such a disingenuous argument to make that, hey, I know, that you're writing a big check, but it doesn't really hurt you because these other people in another part of the country aren't paying, you're not paying as much as them. It's absolutely disingenuous.
It's a little like saying, I know you're bleeding badly, but there's somebody over here that was completely amputated.
Yeah. Quit your whining. Stop sniveling. I mean, just absolutely incredible. And another thing is that these folks will actually come in front of a committee of legislators and say these things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what blows my mind. I mean, Mark, have you ever seen another time where these people are this out in the open about their beliefs?
No, I think it's coming more to the forefront because we do have more people of integrity and we have more conservatives that are actually forcing that to be examined publicly. And so we'll see if the public actually hangs in there. If the grassroots really hangs in there, we can finish turning this around. But people like Ogden Driscoll have gotten away with this for literally
forever.
Yeah. Long time.
So let's ask John Baer. John, have you ever seen a time in the legislature where these people are this open in front of a committee about what they actually believe?
Well, first of all, thanks for letting me call into your show, David. I appreciate that. But no, I think we're in a new era where it's Cowboys versus Indians, skins versus jerseys. And, they believe that their system worked for the people of Wyoming and that ours is going to be a failure. Although, I pointed out that, decades, if not centuries ago, the norm was that government did not delve into the private sector and monkey things up.
All right. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, but there's a lot to talk about, is aren't you proud that you're going to have this whole healthcare system named after you? Bear Care? I mean, I'm sure that you and your lovely wife are so excited.
Well, I've had a little bit of sympathy from some moderates and some conservatives just saying that this was pretty underhanded of Mark Gordon to name something that he calls the Bear Essentials, which, of course, I believe that should be spelled B-A-R-E, but he didn't spell it that way. He spelled it B-E-A-R, Bear Care, just to muck things up for me, I suppose. But I'm outspoken enough that I'm not really overly concerned about that. I think Agent 29 said it best. He said if it were truly an initiative of John Bear's, it would be a box of Band-Aids and a leather strap to bite on. So I don't think that's what Mark Gordon intended. So what I have to say,
I want to know who paid for the Band-Aids and the strap.
You should have gotten that when you were in the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. That's bring it with you. About this Bear Care, or what I call Gordon Care, I can't say it any more simply than this. Romney Care was a disaster. That led to Obamacare, which is a disaster. And now we're trying to fix it all with Gordon Care, which will be a disaster. And, the argument is that this is a catastrophic plan, something you can't get on the exchange.
Uh-huh.
I've always had a catastrophic plan. I believe that's the proper use of insurance, not to go to the doctor when you have sniffles. But I've never been able to not get a catastrophic plan from one place or another. It's not on the exchange. And had Donald Trump not come into office and stopped the $1,000 per person fine for not buying Obamacare, I would have had to pay that, and as would many others. But I would gladly do so over buying into an obnoxiously failing system that is making everybody's healthcare costs outrageous.
Yeah, and I think it's more insidious than that, John. That a little bit earlier on the program, we were talking about all of the attempts to get Medicaid expansion through the legislature. And, all of them failed 17, 19 times, depends on how you look at it. But now I really see it as an attempt to chip away at, at that goal. is that, okay, so now we're going to cover emergencies. And you and I both know that it's not just going to be for catastrophic bear type attacks, which we only have a couple of those every year. It will eventually be, well, we're going to cover all emergencies. And then as Ken said, how do you define what an emergency is? But really what the goal is to cover all emergency room care. Because, I mean, it's catastrophic. And, that's the number one problem so they say, is that's the number one problem with our health insurance is all these people go to the emergency room and then, the hospital has to pick up the tab. So I think that's what this is about, is that getting government into the emergency room.
I'd like to point out that if government was out of the way, even in the actual bear attacks, we would actually be hunting some of those, and those numbers would drop.
What do you think, John?
Well, the director Johansson pointed out that the effort is in hopes that young people who typically don't buy insurance would go ahead and do so for this type of a program. But honestly, you point out the likelihood of a bear attack. Is that going to inspire young people their money on a plan that they expect to never use?
No,
I don't think that their behavior is going to change just because the state of Wyoming came up with a new plan, especially when there's competitors out there that have such plans. I'm on I've been on Medishare. I've been on other programs like that. I've had major catastrophic health care from other larger companies, but you can get it. You can't get it on the exchange, but you can get that type of health care. And you won't be able to get Gordon Care on the exchange either for the same reasons. So if people are going to shop outside the exchange, let them shop in the free market. Let's not go down the same path that government has gone down before and created more problems. I look at how did we get into this insurance mess? This is a little bit of a history lesson, but in 1974, the government got into wage controls with the 1974 Economic Stabilization Program. Well, that is exactly what led companies to offering benefits like health insurance. And what did that do? That led people to starting to use insurance to pay for their doctor's visits.
Yep.
And now look at the cost of health care because everyone believes that this is the only way you can do it. Well, if government hadn't meddled, as Mark just mentioned, we'd be a lot better off to begin with.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. So while I have you on the phone, of course, for the last week, I've been letting Josh Durrell have it over his free market comments. What's your take on all the crazy things that guy said?
Well, I would say this, that he really believes those things. My line of questioning had to do with the fact that Mark Gordon had taken his $110 million request and cut it in half down to $54 million. And why would the governor do that? And after a great number of repeat questions and follow-up questions and from a different angle, I finally got him to admit that he really doesn't have the same view of the solutions to economic development that Josh Durrell has, he being Mark Gordon. So not even a pro-government solution guy like Mark Gordon agrees with Josh Durrell's ideas that government needs to be that much larger, that Wyoming needs to go all in with picking winners and losers so that we can compete with other states. And to me, what I'm seeing is something that looks like the politicization of our agency, because whether you agree that we should have a Wyoming Business Council or not,
we shouldn't.
The pressure is on. They know the pressure is on from conservatives to eliminate such programs. So what do? They go out and they have a statewide poll taken. And of course, they put their thumb on the scale in the way that they ask the questions so that they can attempt to get a view or a show of support for what they do. Of course, they never ask those people being polled, are you willing to pay for these companies to be brought into the state out of your own pocket, which is what taxation and what state dollars really is. and they would never agree to that each of us should pay to bring in these companies. And then there were the watch parties. And so
Oh,
to
boy.
me,
Now that was a lot of fun.
so to me, Josh Durrell is trying to not do his job as a bureaucrat, but rather enter into politics to save his job. So I think that's the most egregious thing as of late. His speech about government is not large enough in Wyoming. His statement that we needed $1.7 billion more in his agency to be effective. Those types of statements are what he believes. And now he is politicizing things so that he can continue to do so at a very handsome salary, I would add.
Yeah, 24 grand a month. And the watch parties, that one, it didn't surprise me. But I was kind of amazed that he actually went through with it. That he sent out an email, that he coordinated all of these things, trying to drum up support for his vision of the new economy that he's going to create. It's just a shame that, your guys' schedule kind of dictates when he has to present. And, you guys were ahead of schedule and wanted him on a little bit earlier. So, I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I hope that really didn't mess his program up too much. Maybe that got him off his kilter, and he ended up having to speak the truth. If so, I'm all the better for the people of Wyoming.
Well, therein lies the problem, John. You're talking about government bureaucrats speaking the truth, and if we could fix that, oh Lord, how we would change things. All right, John. So I appreciate you calling in, my friends. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on while I got you in the hot seat?
No, I appreciate your show and appreciate Mark Jennings and his mentorship. I don't think I would have had many of the lines of questioning that I've had over the last 2 weeks if I hadn't learned really how to drill down on those follow-up questions from Mark Jennings. So appreciate his leadership and appreciate you having him on the show.
All right.
And I appreciate Agent 29. He stood there by my side, and we did great work the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, actually, you guys absolutely did do good work.
Absolutely.
I was, I don't get in the mood that often where I think, man, I just need to sit down and watch an appropriations meeting.
That sounds like a mixed up oxymoronic sentence to me.
Well, it happened.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
We need to get Sean for an extended one so we can talk about some of these issues in a little more detail. But thanks for coming on.
You betcha. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll come with you later, John, and we'll set up a time. Maybe you can make it over and hang out in the studio with us. But I appreciate you calling in, my friend.
Very good. I'd like to see that new studio.
All right. Well, we'll make it happen. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Well, there we go. We got John Bear weighing in. Any reaction to what the good chairman had to say?
I figured he was going to go with it since it was named after him.
Well, yeah. Why not? Who doesn't want a giant government program named after them?
Oh, man.
Pendy care.
Pendy care. Don't give them that idea, Ken.
That's coming.
It is.
That's the next rollout.
Yeah. All right. So we've kind of been hitting sort of some heavy topics today, thus far in the program. But did you guys know that spitting is a crime in England? Did you know that?
Actually, I think that maybe in Wyoming, it also was a crime at one time, and that has not been taken off the books.
Well, that is one of those laws that's on the books that doesn't get enforced, but that is not the case in England.
They're enforcing it.
They are enforcing it. So here's a little video of, and let me just set this up before we hit play on this. So there's this elderly gentleman, and he was out taking a walk. He's got his little walker, and he has to sit down and take a break. And he sits down by this, I don't know what you call it, but some pretty tall grass. And one of the pieces of grass gets caught in his mouth, and he spits it out, or a leaf, rather. Spits out the leaf. And, well, there was a couple of policemen that were in the same vicinity, and they saw him spit out the leaf on the pavement, and they wrote him a ticket for, get this, 250 pounds, which I don't know what the exchange rate is, dollars to pounds, But a while ago, when I was in Scotland, it was like $1.70 a pound. So we're talking about probably a $350 fine just for spitting out a leaf. Here is that video. Go ahead and hit it.
Too far, it's been claimed. In Skegness, there are complaints that the wardens don't take account of genuine accidents, like an elderly man who was fined for spitting out a leaf that had blown into his mouth. But are the wardens just doing their job? Jake Zuckerman reports.
Environmental crime officers, or litter wardens to you and me, have been known to be rather enthusiastic when it comes to handing out fines. And it's seen them make headlines across the country.
I was fined on the spot £100 for a poo she didn't do.
£600. That's how much this small piece of cardboard almost cost a couple in North London.
So I just literally poured it left over there.
She was issued with an on-the-spot £150 fine.
Wow!
Now, here in Skegness, 86-year-old Roy Marsh has discovered just how zealous the wardens can be after he was fined hundreds of pounds for spitting out a leaf. It happened back in February. Roy was out walking on a windy day when he decided to take shelter behind this clump of pampas grass.
This is where it's at.
Now watch. One's going to fly in his mouth.
I came along here, the car park, and I sat down. You can see what's happening.
See?
What happened next came as a shock as he was confronted by wardens.
He said, I've reason to believe you're spitting. I said, you're talking joking. I said, I thought you were going to get me for speeding on the wheels. And I said, you're joking. He just wrote this summons thing out at 260 quid.
In Skegness, a company called Kingdom Enforcement does the job on behalf of East Lindsey District Council. Councillor Adrian Finlay says he's had numerous complaints from residents.
These officers should be using their discretion and go, right, don't do that again. Or maybe give them the opportunity if it's an accident, because that's what keeps happening. People are doing things by happening, whether they pull a tissue out the pocket. I mean, one motorcyclist I saw in Tesco's, he'd lifted the boot of his box on the back of his bike, something blew out, he got a ticket for it.
In a statement, East Lindsey District Council said, while we can't go into circumstances of individual cases, enforcement officers working on behalf of the council will only approach individuals who have been seen committing environmental crime offences.
Environmental crime offenses.
As a form of littering.
All right. So we've got problems here, big government, but there we're ticketing people for spitting out a leaf. What do you think, Mark? You had a look of amazement on your face.
There's a good reason why we broke away from the mother country. Let them keep that over there on that side of the pond. But wow, it looks to me like their grassroots needs to rise up.
Yeah, and you can't go ahead.
Isn't their grassroots? I see what you did there.
Yeah, that was clever. Well, so it's not just the fines for spitting. England is, or London in particular, it is one of the most surveilled cities in the entire world. Cameras everywhere. You can't do anything without being on camera.
Like Jackson Hole.
Yeah, kind of like Jackson Hole. That's true, too. They have those automatic cameras all over the place down there. I'm sure that that's not a violation of anybody's privacy, of course. But this is where big government leads. And this is why I wanted to show you this video after talking about big government for a while. Because, like you say, Mark, it really is about control. Like, you can't spit a leaf out, unless we say so.
Yeah, just unbelievable that they've allowed it to go to that far. And they have very serious problems. Their free immigration is going to destroy their.
If it hasn't
already.
Yeah,
that's right.
And it's think about they have a lot of laws now about posting on social media. That if you post something that's inflammatory, then you can go to jail. And they have sent people to prison over it. And, of course, in England, they don't have the freedom of speech like we do here. But just like the guy in that video, he's saying, come on now, use some common sense. But therein lies the problem. When you give government the ability to take more and more control, the suggestion that they use a little common sense, they're not going to take it. But their response ought to be, well, use some common sense yourself. You gave us this power.
Yeah.
That's exactly the point that I've been trying to make for years, is whenever you cede control of some portion of your life, if you're on welfare getting food benefits, if you have a government health care program, you cede that liberty. And now somebody else can make decisions for you, and you're at the mercy. I would say the same thing is true if you put your kids in public school.
Well, and there are numerous stories in Wyoming. The one that comes to mind is the lawsuit in Rock Springs, where the school was socially transitioning a young person, unbeknownst to her parents. And the only way the parent found out is one of the teachers, let the cat out of the bag about what that was happening there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this clerk in Weston County. Apparently, she thinks the case ought to be thrown out because the legislature, they shouldn't have subpoenaed her. So we'll do that in just a second. Yeah, I know. The weather seems to be toying with us. 60 one day, 42 the next, and pretty soon, my friends, those 6s and 4s are going to turn into 3s and 2s. Though we all want to avoid it, that white stuff is coming, my friends, and you will be shoveling the walk in it. It's cold, it's unpleasant, and nobody likes to do it. But you could make it just a little bit more comfortable and prevent your feet from turning into a giant block of ice. In fact, you could keep them nice and warm and toasty, and your toes will never even know that they're outside. The rest of you may be frozen solid, but at least your feet won't be. To make all this happen, you just need a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listen to the president just a little bit too closely and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
Cowboy State Politics is only going to get stronger. This program is expanding faster than, frankly, I ever thought that it would. If you haven't signed up for the Outrider yet, you're missing out. That's the official newsletter of Cowboy State Politics. And I want to send you a copy of it. I really enjoy putting it together. And if you want a copy of it, go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, and the very first thing you'll see is a pop-up. Just put your email address in there and hit submit, and I will send you a copy of it. It's a recap of everything that's happened during the week on Cowboy State Politics. And on Thursday, I'm going to give you kind of a sneak peek into what the Christmas story, the traditional Cowboy State Politics Christmas story is going to be. Most of the time, you don't get that sneak peek. You just have to wait until Christmas Eve until it comes out. But this time around, yeah, I'll kind of give you a little inside information on what that's going to be. So, welcome back to the show from the Cowboy. The Weston County Clerk says legislators broke the law by issuing a subpoena. And just let me read you the first couple of paragraphs from a ridiculously voluminous article written by Claire McFarland. And I quote, "A motion in defense of Weston County Clerk Becky Hadlock," and I'll show you a picture of Ms. Hadlock here. Ken, show us all this picture. Ah, there she is. Oh, just
she has a flag on.
She does have a flag on. That's true. Anyway, so Becky Hadlock, she says that legislators broke the law. The attorney for Weston County's clerk filed a strongly worded motion Monday in Casper Circuit Court accusing state lawmakers of exceeding their authority in violating the county clerk's constitutional rights when they subpoenaed her to testify this autumn. Errors in uncontested legislative and county commission races surfaced in Weston County in last November's election. After a legislative committee subpoenaed Becky Hadlock to discuss those errors, and she did not appear for its September meeting, the Natrona County District Attorney's Office charged her on October 24th with failure to appear for a legislative subpoena. If convicted, she faces up to 6 months in jail and a whopping $100 fine. Now, Mark, you have been in the legislature for, it seems like, decades. Okay, a decade.
Feels like decades, though.
I'm sure it does. Don't worry, Ken. You'll be feeling that way soon. Do you ever...
What do you mean soon? Jeez.
Ken, or Mark, do you ever remember another time when the legislature has subpoenaed somebody to appear?
This was the first that I was aware of. I know it's happened in the past, but not in my time there.
And now, of course, there were subpoenas issued to officials from Manderson, and there was one other place. So this...
That's a funny sentence.
It is, yes. So this legislature has issued subpoenas before, but I don't know that I've ever heard of it happening, in the past. Certainly not somebody ignoring the subpoena.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Becky Hadlock, instead of, getting a piece of paper from a sheriff's deputy being served and saying, wow, I guess I have to go to Casper, she sent a letter that basically said, sorry, I have other plans.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Did that surprise anybody in this room?
No, I don't think so. It's completely out of line, and in a state or a country that's supposed to be rule of law, just to have the decency to go show up. I mean, that just, I don't know. It's just appalling to me that you have an elected official that would do that.
Yeah, and her excuse wasn't even plausible.
No.
It was basically like, I schedule all my meetings in 1 week so I don't have to be bothered the rest of the time.
Not just plausible, but she said, I'm going to send a couple people in my stead. Only she failed to notify those people that they were on call, so to speak. So it was just, it was a shambles.
So these two people show up at the committee meeting, and they're asked by, I think it was Representative Rachel Rodriguez Williams. She said, so you guys are supposed to be testifying. And they're like, what? We weren't told that we were supposed to do that. We just showed up, or something to that effect. But Becky Hadlock, it doesn't surprise me. This behavior doesn't surprise me, because the day after the election results came out, the Newsletter Journal, the newspaper in Newcastle, interviewed her, and she basically said, there's no problems with the election. There's nothing to see here. Don't pay any attention to it. Well, then the following day, I called her and did another interview with her, and she told me an entirely different story than what she had told the Newsletter Journal. But now, apparently, her lawyer is saying that the legislature didn't have the right to subpoena her. Ken, what are you hearing in regards to this whole thing?
I'm not hearing anything. I'm here listening to you.
Right. Very funny.
Yeah, no, it's very little talk or chatter going on there. But what strikes me is, if charges were filed against her by an attorney, by a judge, whomever, who knows the law. Don't you think if there really was a problem with the law, that those charges would never have been charged? Somebody would have stood up and said, no, you guys were wrong even bringing her in here. That didn't happen.
No, it didn't. Now, here's what her attorney says. What the Cowboy says about what her attorney said. Man, this is complicated. Hadlock's attorney, Ryan Semerad, argued in a Monday filing that the state legislators who issued that subpoena exceeded their lawful authority, conducted their investigation against the confines of state law, and violated her rights. Quote, that subpoena was void from the start, so this prosecution must fail as a matter of law. So in other words, I don't think it was right, and so you got to drop the charges. His motion quotes a concurring opinion of U.S. Supreme Court case 1952, Youngstown Sheet versus Tube Company versus Sawyer. All right. The accretion of dangerous power does not come in a day. It does come, however, slowly from the generative force of unchecked disregard of the restrictions that fence in even the most disinterested assertion of authority. So this is in his motion to dismiss the charges. Now, this is not a lawsuit, which is what the Cowboy makes it out to seem like. Now, they don't say that, but just the way that they constructed the article.
It's just a motion.
Yeah, it's just a motion is all it is. I mean, this happens in criminal cases. You know, your lawyer tries to get the case thrown out. I mean, that happens. But the way that this lawyer is treating it is that it is a civil matter. You see a lot of these arguments in civil cases. You rarely see them in criminal ones. Now, here's another quote from the quotation from the Cowboy that I find interesting. Quote, Semerad, an attorney of noteworthy accomplishment in Wyoming, confirmed Monday to the Cowboy State Daily that he's not being paid with public funds to represent Hadlock. How do we know that he's an attorney of noteworthy accomplishment in the Cowboy State? I mean, the Cowboy constantly makes references like this. And, you know, another one of them is when referring to the WEA, an education advocacy organization, not a teachers union.
Yes, assuming this is exposed as the frivolous mess that it is, I think that he ought to be responsible for all of the expenses to the state for going back through this, and he ought to be disbarred. Just my thought.
So what is what would be the grounds of disbarment?
Complete gross misrepresentation of the law.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So Semerad's motion says that the Management Audit Committee exceeded their authority that state law gives them by subpoenaing Hadlock to uncover a crime. Now, this is interesting, too. The attorney cited multiple public documents and statements to support this theory. The Wyoming Constitution distinguishes three branches of state government: executive, legislative, and judicial. A 1990 Supreme Court case affirms that the executive branch has, quote, the exclusive power to prosecute alleged crimes. Now, was the Management Audit Committee prosecuting a crime, or were they investigating it?
They only have investigatory powers.
Yeah, so they weren't prosecuting it.
No, not at all.
All right, here's the next part. Here, and this is from the motion. The subcommittee wanted to question Clerk Hadlock about allegations that she broke the law. That is, they wanted to ask her, at least in its members' eyes, potentially incriminating questions. But the clerk has a constitutional right against self-incrimination. And he continues, that's a safeguard against heedless, unfounded, or tyrannical prosecution. So
it's only incriminating if you have something to hide.
Yes.
Well, wait a minute. Is he saying that he wasn't going to be there to lean over to his client and say, I recommend you invoke the Fifth Amendment?
Well, evidently.
I mean, that doesn't even make sense. I mean, they wanted to ask some questions. All he had to do was advise her that it's an ongoing investigation and that she should not talk about it.
No,
but they still have to show up for the subpoena.
Now, I assume that Becky Hadlock thought it unnecessary to even hire an attorney because she assumed she didn't have to follow the subpoena, that she could just go run her errands to the grocery store or whatever instead of following what...
Now, she did seem to ignore a lot of laws.
No, not at all, Ken. I mean, are you suggesting that maybe conducting an election fairly and according to the law is something she should have done?
Well, I'm curious where the governmental immunity process is at in this.
Okay, explain.
Well, we typically, for elected officials and lots of governmental employees have governmental immunity, and so she's saying, or this article is saying that that she is paying for this lawyer herself. Well, that almost seems like a admission of guilt. Why wouldn't you have allowed the governmental immunity lawyers to take care of this case if you were innocent? It seems like you would.
If you were innocent, but herein lies the problem with that, is that governmental immunity applies if you are acting within the course of your duties. So let me give you an example. Let's say Agent 29 is speeding on the way back from Cheyenne. I mean, God, I hope he is. You got to get out of that place as fast as you possibly can. So anyway, he's speeding home.
Only if I'm following Mark.
Yeah. And riding with Jennings is always an experience. So anyway, Ken is trucking down the road, coming home, and he gets pulled over by a highway patrolman. And the patrolman says, Representative Pendergraft, you were speeding. And he writes him a ticket. And Ken thinks that ticket was absolutely unwarranted, and so he decides to sue the highway patrol. Well, governmental immunity would prevent him from doing that because the highway patrolman was acting within the course of his duty. So Ken was speeding, highway patrolman was doing his job, pulled Ken over, wrote him a ticket. So there's nothing untoward there. So, a government official can't be sued or prosecuted for acting within the course of their duties. The problem with Headlock, though, is that she, whether intentionally or unintentionally, screwed up the printing of the ballots. So, I mean, we could say that that's a mistake. Okay, the first batch she had printed. And then she ordered a second batch of ballots that were correctly printed, and then put all of those together and sent them out into the election. That's why there ended up being like 2,000 undervotes in Speaker Nyman's race, because those incorrectly printed ballots were included with the correctly printed ones.
But I thought the criminal aspect of this was not bringing up the fact of her incompetence, but that she's then, knowing all of that incompetence, she certified the election.
Yes, we're getting there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So then, after all of that, it's all uncovered. Secretary Gray fixes it. They do a recount and all of that. And Becky Hadlock submits a report to the Secretary of State that says, nothing to see here. There was no problems with this election. And, so clearly a false report. I mean, obviously false. And then she gets subpoenaed by the legislature to appear. And that's where she says, no, man, I'm too busy. I really have to go get my groceries. I can't be bothered to drive to Casper to follow this legal subpoena. And so there's a lot of things here that I don't think that governmental immunity applies in any way.
Well, I think the incompetent side of it, you would have had a government lawyer that would have come along and said, well, anyone could make a mistake.
Yes, you would think.
But it's interesting to me, and I'd like to heard the conversation around why she felt compelled to hire an attorney without any public money. Because typically, if you're innocent, you let the government handle that for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
to go back to your analogy.
Yes.
If I didn't realize I was speeding or whatever, I could say, oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry, I won't do that again. Okay, you make a mistake. But if I try to cover that up and come up with some sort of
there you go.
Now I get into trying to sue them because your radar gun is defective and when was it last calibrated and all of that kind of stuff.
So let me throw another one out there that might make it more applicable to Becky Hadlock. Let's say when you're speeding home and you get pulled over, you pull out your legislator badge and you say, I've got this, you can't write me a ticket.
That would never happen because it's attached to my windshield. I don't have to pull it out.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Well,
right beside I gave to the police ball sticker.
The point I'm making is if you tried to assert that, hey, I'm a legislator, I'm on legislative business, you can't pull me over, which that's not entirely true. You can be pulled over. And there's a lot of other restrictions there, but it wouldn't be true anyway because you were headed home. And therein, and then if you tried to sue or to use that as a defense against the ticket, well then.
Well, if there was some way, what her problem was, as far as I see it, is she tried to cover it up.
Yes.
And then swore false statements. Now you're getting far away from, oh, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. It could have happened to anybody.
Sure.
Well, maybe.
Now, had she, okay, so from the very beginning, if she had said, oops, I had the ballots printed incorrectly. All right, let's get rid of those. We'll print a new batch. But she didn't do that. From the very beginning, it was deception after deception. So anyway, I don't foresee her motion to dismiss going anywhere. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do with that.
Who's the judge?
I don't know. It's already in the trash.
Okay.
All right. So now I did print this one out on, intentionally, unlike Becky had, or no, kind of, yeah, it was intentional, to talk about. The question is, gentlemen, to legislators here, to conservatives, are we right about taxes? Now, there is a piece in the Turkey Vulture entitled, or the Wyoming Tribune Eagle, entitled, Most Wyoming Residents Right, Some Lawmakers Wrong About Taxes. Now, let me show you what was posted to Facebook from Augie, old Ogden Driscoll. Let me just make this bigger for you so you can see it. All right, so it says, feeling like you're being overtaxed? Let's compare to any other state. Wyoming doesn't make the top 50. It is 51st. Okay, so first, Augie, we only have 50 states. We do not have 51 states. So if you're including Puerto Rico or something in your analysis, you're already wrong. But the question, gentlemen, is we are the lowest tax state, and according to Augie, Wyoming citizens don't have anything to stand on. You should just shut up and pay your taxes.
We're the lowest tax state. Great. But what drives taxation? That's the question.
Government spending.
What drives taxation is spending. And the fact that a lot of that money that belongs to the state was gleaned from industry, specifically the minerals industry, which, by the way, we all paid for because we all buy the oil and the gas.
And by the way, companies do not pay taxes.
Yeah,
you pay taxes.
That's my point. But it is our money, no matter what Mike Giroux and Ogden Driscoll say. And the fact that so much of it is going out unnecessarily because of not answering the question properly, what's the proper role of government?
Yes.
We do have an argument.
Okay, so Mark, we have heard this whole spiel from Ogden and others that, hey, these other places, they pay much higher taxes than you do. So really, I mean, the taxes you pay, it's not that big of a deal. Go ahead and respond to that for me.
I don't really care what other states are doing.
Yeah, neither do I.
I care about what Wyoming's doing, and we have, like I said, I've said this for, ever since I started. It's not a taxation problem, it's a spending problem. And it drives, and it is the problems. You can take you can take other people that do statistics, and they can show you that west of the Mississippi, Wyoming is one of the highest taxed people. I mean, look at what we're spending per student per year. I mean, it is astonishing. Are some of those things realistic if you have money? I mean, we spend more per capita on public employees. We have more public employees. I never fought hard to see to it that we had the least number of employees or the lowest paid, because we do have money. It's the egregious thing of how much over and above and beyond that we do. We're not have the most public employees by a little bit. We have the most by a bunch. And I'm actually going to go with a statement that our socialist friend said, that are we right-sized? And most people don't even get to look at the basket of goods. And I would argue that most of the time, the things that are put into the basket by bureaucracies and red coat politicians are not things that most people would want to be paying for. We could downsize our government if we were to right size it.
No, according to Josh Durrell, we are indeed too small.
Too small.
Ken?
And if you look at the budget and say, okay, let's just look at the budget, and we can demonstrate through that government is entirely too large because it spends too much, it tries to do too much. But that doesn't even represent half of what the state spends. There is so much money that is spent that is off budget that it's even worse than it is. And it's similar to the idea about, okay, we spend $21,000 per student for education. No, we actually spend closer to 34.
Yeah.
When you throw the buildings and the maintenance and all that other
Yeah,
stuff.
I think that's an astonishing statistic right there, that if you include the buildings, it's actually 33 or 34,000 per student.
Happening on my watch, and I railed against it. They would create a revenue stream into a bureaucracy, and then they would claim that the budget was less because they pulled them off of the general fund. No, they weren't. They were actually more. Because they pulled YDOT off and Game and Fish, and it was just, they create revenue streams for them. Well, they don't print money. That they took that money from somebody. And
woe to them that call evil good and good evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I've always been fascinated that liberal redcoats, Democrats, Rhino, whatever you want to call them, they constantly make the argument, well, look, compared to other states, you pay less in taxes. Or here's another one. Compared to other states, we pay teachers too less. We don't pay teachers enough compared to other states. State employees, they don't make as much as the folks in South Dakota or North Dakota. Well, none of that really matters here because it's all dependent upon what your expenses are in the state.
Yeah.
Right. So whether or not your taxes are too high is completely dependent upon how much you make, how much your expenses are, your property, all of that. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do what's happening in Mississippi. And yet folks like Ogden Driscoll are making that argument. So now let's talk about the politics.
If he likes paying taxes, I recommend he move.
Well, and evidently he doesn't like being elected. So, making statements like this is a good way to get people not to vote for you.
No, he likes to be elected.
Yes, he does.
He's never gotten a majority, though.
No, he never has. He's never gotten close to a majority.
Yeah.
Every election he's been, I think the first time he got elected, it was like 34% of the vote, 35, something like that. And then his second one, I think it was in the 40s, like 42 or 43. Never had 50% of the vote at all. Not 50% plus one. So anyway, Augie, I find, and that he makes that post during Christmas. The Christmas season anyway. It just tells you everything you need to know about old Augie. But and the politics surrounding it. So let me just pull this post up again and see if I included it. Okay, so I didn't. So this post was and here we're getting into social media stuff, but Augie's post was reposted by Campbell County Commissioner Scott Clem. That is another intriguing part of this.
There is nothing intriguing about Scott.
No, it's intriguing that he would repost it and think that that's going to resonate with his voters.
Well, Scott Clem came in at the same time that I did, 11, 12 years ago. And he was a different Scott Clem than he is today. I think somewhere along the line he decided that red coats were pretty, and so he pulled one on.
Yes, he definitely donned one.
Oh, let's not go there.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it right there. Well, and this is what happens, I think, that when elected officials or when people in general get elected to office, whether it be county commissioner or the state legislature or whatever, and I think that Harriet has the best explanation of this, but you get elected and you want to be popular. And according to Harriet, what happens in D.C., and I don't think that it's any different in Cheyenne. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong here. But you want to be popular. You want to go to all the fantastic parties and get invited to all of these lavish dinners and hang out with important people. And I guess everybody gets to eat the chocolate dump truck from the Contractors Association.
That one's important. But
you,
other than that.
But you want to be popular and you want to be liked. And what is required to do that is to vote yes. And that if you vote yes, well, then you're going to get invited to all of this stuff and receive all of the benefits. But if you vote no and you're a conservative, and Mark, you've never voted no before, except all the time, you don't get invited to all of this stuff and you become unpopular and you don't get to hang out with the cool kids. Am I wrong?
Well, you're not wrong, but there's another aspect that I guess you don't really realize until you're there. When you're there and everybody around you is part of the swamp.
Yes.
And you sit in committee and everybody that speaks is part of the swamp and you go from committee meeting to committee meeting seeing the same people, you everybody has a tendency to become a little bit more like the people that they were around. And that's one of the problems, especially if you've been there for very long, is the only people that are ever talking about these issues are the same
swamp creatures.
Swamp creatures. And two ways to fight that is one is to stay in touch with your base. Don't forget where you came from. And a lot of people don't do that. So I guess what I'm saying is we need more involvement in these committee meetings. We need more people to call in to sit there. You know, when the balcony's full, we've commented about this a lot of times. When the balcony's full, the votes start looking different. People have a different attitude and things change.
The best example of that, and Ken, I don't think you had been elected yet, but Mark, you were definitely there, was the COVID special session. The very first day, that gallery was packed. In fact, they were turning people away because the gallery was over capacity. The second day, about half of those people had gone home because they had to go to work and manage things at home, and they couldn't hang out in the Capitol building. Now the third day, it was pretty much empty except for me and your lovely wife, Mark. We were pretty much the only ones there. Now when the gallery was full, oh yeah, everybody's conservative, man. Everybody is voting against all this conservative or all this COVID stuff, and we were given the impression that good things were going to happen. The second day, not so much, and the third day, everything was back to business as usual. And therein lies the problem.
And it's, you see it in people like Steve Harshman when he gets up and laments the fact that we ever brought cameras in.
Yeah.
That is a big criminal offense as far as he's concerned. And these damn cameras, they got people. And now everybody's showboating in front of the cameras all the time.
Uh-huh.
I forget about the cameras.
Careful. I agree with Steve Harshman.
What?
Well,
what?
Go ahead.
I don't.
We're going long on this program.
I don't totally disagree, but well, you make your statement.
Yeah, make your argument, Mark.
I find it a crying shame that we had to go to that because we didn't have honest statesmen there that we trusted and could trust, and therefore you bring in the cameras to show the grassroots what's really going on. It's a crying shame that we had to do that. The institution should have remained a public trust, and integrity should have been the.
I would argue that it never has been, though, Mark.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't there in 1890.
Well, think about this. We say all of the time that the state we have right now has been building for decades, right? And you can't tell me that when Nancy Case was in office in the 1990s, and he was advocating for a state income tax, that the redcoats were any different now than they are then.
Okay,
now.
But surely you would agree, being a historian, that JFK today would be a Republican.
Without a doubt.
And so that tells you that the party changed, the people that involved there. And so one of my predecessors was a ranch guy, Perry, Carlton Perry. And he was conservative. Even back in his day, he was called a conservative. But if you go back and look at it, he probably wasn't as conservative as maybe Agent 29 or myself. But the
You guys are all
overall
liberals in my book. But anyway,
the overall arching legislature at that time, they were not going to debate whether or not we could force people to wear a mask or take an injection. I mean that, and so their integrity level would have been higher. It would have had more fidelity to the citizens. And so we've come to such a place that now the cameras exposing it maybe, have been necessary. I'm just saying that I agree with Steve. We look at it from a different perspective. I look at it as it's a crying shame. He looks at it like, well, it's a crying shame that you would expose us redcoats.
yes.
And I'm looking at it like it's a crying shame that we had to. You redcoats should have had honesty and integrity to your constituents.
Now, I agree that in a perfect world, and maybe at some point in the past, we had more fidelity to what the position is to your constituents. Perhaps that was the case. And to that part, I agree. The problem is that for a very long time, we've had people that are not representing their constituents, that they're building government, that they're expanding it, spending more money.
I would contend that Wyoming has never had an honest legislature. I'm not a great historian, but I understand, even like listening to my grandfather who was telling me about what it was like as head of the Game and Fish back in the 40s. And he was basically referring to Cheyenne as a snake pit. They were the people that they were the elites, I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
We haven't trusted Cheyenne since 1892.
People like John Kendrick and the others, the big cattlemen that got to control the narrative and got to manipulate things. And finally, we've gotten to the point where, for the first time ever, the non-elites are beginning to have a voice, and they're apoplectic.
Yeah. Now, I think if there was one good thing that came out of COVID, and there was a lot of bad stuff that came out of COVID, but the one good thing that happened was those cameras. That it showed the everyday citizen, hey, look, this is what these people are doing to you. And,
Same thing happened with the schools.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with the good part that occurred there. I'm just saying that it's a crying shame that it has to be that way.
No,
Listen, our founders made this very clear. It's a republic, madam, if you can keep it. And this is the problem with keeping a republic is you have to have honest, integrity people that run for office and win those offices. And I'm only lamenting from that standpoint.
No, I think we're in agreement on that, Mark. The problem is, right now, we've got way too many redcoats, and that's why this show exists. Well, guys, thank you for sitting in. We burned up another busy broadcast 2 hours on the program. Make sure that you subscribe to the newsletter. Go to cowboystatepolitics.com and fill out that pop-up form. And while you're there, subscribe and follow the show.
And tell all your friends.
Tomorrow, my friends, we'll see you. Have a good afternoon. We'll talk again.